What is going on, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Killer Whales Academy. This is your boy OX Nosh, and this is officially powered by Hello. Good morning, good evening to all of you from all over the world. We've got a live stream on our hands. We've got some TA, we've got some market outlook and information to cover. So I'm gonna get right into this. Oh, I got myself cloned over here. Yeah, we're going to get right into this market outlook real quick. There are news articles and things going out right now, as the one we see in front of us by Goldman Smacks. That's crazy. Imagine Goldman Smacks, guys. That's an insane name. Why the Fed may cut rates earlier than expected. All right. So the Federal Reserve may cut its policy rate in September, which is kind of what we've all been voicing and seeing voiced on X, on the news, et cetera, et cetera. They've shifted its forecast for rate cuts because very early evidence suggests that the effects of this year's tariffs policies are a bit smaller than expected, and other disinflationary forces have been stronger. So basically, the view is that tariffs will only have a one-time effect on price levels, and additionally, the signs that the job market could be softening would mean, while the labor market still looks healthy, it has become hard to find a job. Um, these are all kind of causation and things that correlate to potentially the Fed, stimulating the economy by reducing the interest rates right now. So here it's written, when will the Fed cut rates? Miracle estimates that the odds of a rate cut in September are somewhat above 50%. The team is penciling 25 basis point cuts in September, October, and December, as well as cuts of the same magnitude in March and June 2026. If there's any insurance motive for cutting, it would be most natural to cut at consecutive meetings, yada, yada, yada. So this is good news, guys. That is bullish for our bags. That is bullish for the market, and also ultimately for the economy. Rate cuts would bring in fresh liquidity. It would bring in, people would be looking to buy more homes. You would see the real estate market sort of pick up a little bit potentially as well. And people will be spending more money because of the sort of stimmy, right? This is how the Fed likes to do things. They oscillate between these ranges, and they kind of, basically, it's their world. We're just living in it. So what is the outlook for U.S. inflation and employment? Some Fed officials suggest that they could support a cut at the September meeting if upcoming inflation prints are not too high. So at the same time, category level PCE data indicates a bit less impact from the earlier China tariffs. Kind of the same stuff that we're seeing here as well, right? So this is important to note. So based on how job performance does on the next meeting, when is the next jobs report? This is something you guys should watch out for, August 1st. Basically, this will cover, unemployment data and all that stuff too. So this is very, very crucial for understanding what the Fed might do leading into for maybe their August FOMC meeting, which I think is, let's see here. Let's see the calendar real quick. Oh, there is none in August. I think it's going to be straight in September, right? So that would basically influence the September outcome. Market would already start pricing things in if the unemployment rate kind of stays the same, I think, and if it softens as well. Basically the Federal Reserve would want to come in and slash rates to sort of stimulate the economy. That's something to watch out for, guys. So watch out on August 1st for this specific data. Very, very important. In other news, guys, there's a lot of bullish things going on right now in the crypto space. If we go over here to Watch Your Guru, which is a nice little thing that I look at sometimes for just quick headlines, the Emirates Airlines just signed a deal with Crypto.com for payments integration. This is pretty big for adoption. It'll be very interesting to see what they do. Here's another article on it on Cointelegraph. So definitely look into this. Your Highness Sheikh Ahmed bin Saeed Al Maktoum, I hope I'm saying that right. They basically had a signing ceremony, and essentially the strategic move is in line with Dubai's vision to be a forefront financial innovation. We already know that Dubai is pushing the needle on crypto, one of the best countries for crypto adoption, I think. And just if you're in crypto, you got less taxes, you got favorable sort of regulation around this stuff. Things are going well in Dubai for crypto. So very, very cool to see. One of the biggest airlines in the world, guys. Emirates is huge, kind of a luxury airline, or like a top tier airline, really. Right, so it'd be interesting to see what they do. So maybe you guys will be able to make payments with the Emirates Airlines in terms of using their services, their points system. Maybe they're going to translate their point system into that, because most people don't know this, but Emirates point system actually, I think, nets them more revenue than the actual flights itself. So that's absolutely crazy. You guys should check it out. Like someone told me this, and I was very very interested. It's the Emirates Skywards, right? So this is a very interesting business model, but super side note, just got caught up in a tangent. Moving on from here, guys. So Stanley raises Futu stock prices target to 160 on crypto potential. Futu is essentially they have a competitive edge in the cryptocurrency market with what they're doing. This is interesting to see because these are more obviously traditional analysts kind of giving a higher stock rating for companies that are contributing to or working in the cryptocurrency sphere. So this cryptocurrency business is viewed as a multi-year driver for Futu's investment case, suggesting long-term growth potential beyond immediate financial results. Very interesting to see, right, that they've had, I think year over year, they've done pretty well in terms of like their growth. I don't really know about the specifics of what they're doing in the crypto space, but it's cool to see the headlines around like the bullish catalyst specifically within the crypto space for stocks, companies, and the traditional sort of adoption for um, you know equities, right? So this is Futu Holdings. I think they're a Chinese company. I could be wrong. Yeah, Hong Kong. They've had, yeah, there you go. Year over year revenue increase 85%. Interesting. Net income's up by quite a bit. Margins are, yeah, I would look into the stock, guys, if you're into stocks. But sometimes I like to pick up stocks as well from a crypto angle because I think that it's just good exposure. It hedges you a little bit, whether that's looking at exchange exposure like Coinbase. They're obviously a massive driver, obviously across the board for crypto with Base and everything that they're doing, but also things like indirect sort of things, maybe even like Robinhood. You got MicroStrategy, you've got all the other sort of big boys out there, right? This is Futu Holdings on a 5-year timeline. Very interesting. This is actually a really good chart. This was the 2020 pump. Obviously, we had a huge euphoric gains. A lot of OGs entered crypto around here, running all-time highs from like 37 local to almost like that's crazy, guys. That's a 500% increase in their price, and then dropping down from the local highs all the way 84% to $25, and now it's back up 400% on within the past 2-3 years. So interesting thing to look at. I would check this out actually. I'm probably going to research this after the stream, but we're going to go back to our market updates before we dive into altcoin TA. So real quick, U.S. national debt officially reaches new all-time high for the first time since February. Nothing to be really super bullish on, but hey, you know what? Jay Powell, the Federal Reserve, the economy. I mean, guys, these guys love to print money, and it is obviously really crazy to see. People are obviously memeing about this and laughing because crazy stuff, right? What do I say, guys? The U.S. can do this because it's the U.S. and they kind of lead the global economy in a lot of ways, and they've been able to kick the can down the road, so to speak, in terms of the impact that these things have on inflation, on consumer goods, on real estate, and other things as well, right? Because this is the baby boomers doing. If you look at this, especially from 1994, parabolic growth, guys. Parabolic growth on the debt, U.S. national debt. Maybe you should have longed this back in the day. That might have been profitable. But yeah, anyways, guys. U.S. says is taking historic steps to ensure the U.S. remains crypto capital of the world. We're aware of this, guys. It's been nothing new in terms of what the bullishness and the stance that the administration has had, as well as regulators. We're seeing that momentum, right, in crypto. So I'm going to get back into the more market side of things now. We can actually look at what's going on with the charts. So if we go to CoinMarketCap, go to cryptocurrencies, and see what's happening, guys. Bitcoin's at 109,000. Ethereum had a little bit of a bump in the past 7 days, about 8% to 2,650. This is interesting to note because of, I think, a couple of different things that's going on with ETH. I heard somewhere that they had some upgrades coming out for their TPS with sort of like it's called a Gigaga or something. I don't know how to say it, but basically I heard something about this was cooking. So I don't know if this is true or not, but yeah, we might have to do some more DD on that because new Ethereum devs activate Pectra upgrade with 11 changes boosting UX validator efficiency and layer 2 scaling. So that's awesome, right? This is obviously going to be bullish for L2s and ultimately help the base layer chain. Very, very cool to see mainnet, just all these things happening right now for ETH. We should look more into the numbers itself and see what's happening with liquidity, but coming back to this real quick, so Bitcoin's at 109,000. I think I'm going to open up my trading view now just so we can kind of get a better perspective on what's going on over here. Let's go to... Okay, this is crude oil futures. All right, cool. All right, guys. So Bitcoin right now actually didn't end up following the pattern that we thought it would. I kind of gave a ceiling in terms of this bull flag that we have right now. That is set up on Bitcoin. As you can see, if you zoom out real quick, guys, Bitcoin has had a parabolic run on the daily chart. I mean, guys, this is just insane. All the way down from 75,000 all the way up to 112 grand, right? That's close to it, right? 50% move for Bitcoin. Bitcoin's got to cool off, guys. The RSI's got to cool off. This is the RSI right here. But also just the, people need to take profits. Market needs to cool off and stabilize in terms of the Iran-Israel situation as well as the macro situation with the Fed. It's interesting to see that Bitcoin isn't being as reactive and weak as it has been in past cycles with such, grave news in terms of like what's going on with the market. So very, very interesting to note that. It's following a very, very strong momentous pattern right now, and it's kind of consolidating. People are accumulating, and we're seeing that right here, right? On the top end of the bull flag, we're seeing the rejection up here, kind of like this descending pattern. And now we've recently, since my last live stream, this was a key zone, right? And we thought, okay, it's possible it rejects and goes down, back down to these levels at 100,000 and then sends again. Well, we've had a better move from here, guys. We've had Bitcoin actually break through and push above. I do think this could be paired with the S&P 500. I'm not sure if the S&P is up as well. Yeah, in the past 5 days, about a week or so, guys, it's S&P 500 has seen a 1.5% move. And oftentimes you see the stock market in the US, the S&P 500, which is basically the 500 biggest stocks listed on the US stock exchange in the United States. It's accumulation of that. They have performed extremely well, and the market's been moving up. So that's what you get when the S&P moves up. Typically, Bitcoin correlates that, especially kind of when things are more aligned on the market scale, right? Right now, where Bitcoin is at, I do think it could retest the 110,161, which is right here. That is about a, let's see, huge spread, guys. What the heck? Hold up. Okay, so that would be about a 0.64%. Very small move, I guess, on percentage scale, 0.7%, but I mean, it's Bitcoin. That's about a 7% gain from here. And, we potentially could break out of here and go for the 111K and then potentially either reject there or bounce up and go through it again. So good. What the good news is that Bitcoin's kind of breaking out of this sort of trend right now, right? And it's kind of it was coiling up. We're breaking out of the trend. We're seeing sort of strength pull up here. And the RSI also had time to cool off, guys, on the 1 day. If you look at the RSI over here, right, it was overheated. This was sort of a pivotal point, bounce again. And now, we might be back on our way up for the RSI to heat up again and then potentially make new highs for Bitcoin, or at least kind of hover above and maybe make a new range. So good to see here. This is awesome. I think that this is bullish for our bags ultimately with all the news that's coming out, especially with the perspective on job reports as well as Jay Powell's future interest rates, interest rate cut aligning with the market macro situation right now. Barring we get any worse tariff news or any war news, I think that we're on the right move. Even if we do have some negative news come out for those macro geopolitical situations, it might be absorbed. I don't know. But I do feel like Bitcoin's in a really strong place because this is what happened during the entire escalation for Iran, Israel, stuff going on with China, with Russia, with tariffs. This is what we've been up to, right? Bitcoin's been able to hold a pretty strong basis point. So let's go through some different altcoins right now real quick. I do think that I mentioned Say was in a good spot. Last time I did mention that there was potential for a downturn, and looks like we actually pretty much got that as a buy zone. I did confirm last stream that watch Say and watch the retrace. Oops, what is going on here, dude? I'm gonna go back here. So I did mention on my last stream, guys, to watch the retrace on Say, and this played out picture perfect, right? We've got this sort of rejection because people need to take profits, guys. Say has ran up quite a bit, especially from the 16-cent zone. That's almost a 2x. This was I don't want to say mandatory move, but it was very much called for when you got an overheated RSI. You've got early buyers taking profits, and you've also just got a healthy correction on your hands for this to continue upwards in a bullish momentum, guys, because we're still, I think, on our way to make higher highs and higher lows. So If we look at the chart real quick, guys, this was what from my call from last week. That's about a 25% drop, 26% drop. So you got to recognize that in crypto, the 25%, 30% swings are the most normal everyday situations, right? This is very, very important because I think a lot of people in crypto don't recognize that that's not really normal across the board for, traditional stocks, mid cap, high cap stocks in the equities market. This is very much a super volatile space, and people forget that sometimes. So you got to really hedge your risk. You really got to hedge your bets and watch your entries. Have a strategy. Are you going long? Are you someone who shorts? Are you holding for an X amount of days? Do you have a theory for why you want to hold for X amount of days? Like, you have to kind of nitpick and decide your strategy, based around the logic of the TA, as well as the fundamentals, as well as the macro market, and then make your conclusion, execute your trade, right? And then keep the trade unless something or a factor changes. And if a factor changes during the trade setup, it's time to get out, right? If it goes against you, that's why you have stop losses and stuff like that. I think, do I think Say is a buy right now? I don't know, but I would say that it's much better area to DCA and get into Say than it was before, because you have a 26% almost discount from the previous prices on the last stream, which I called. So me personally, I would potentially, if I was to enter a trade, it's not a guarantee, this is non-financial advice, obviously, I would potentially take a long setup and scalp the 30%. It might be a swing trade, right? So I think the market's going to be a little bit bullish in the next few days. So I do think that Say could have a nice little bit of a rally, sort of back to the same levels as before, which is 0.33 cents. And that's about a 30% increase in price, guys. It could even shoot up a little bit more. If we look at previous resistance, see, we rejected this brown line right here, and that's been a common point of support in the past, right? 1, 2, and yeah. So if we break above that, I do think that Say has a good shot of getting to 35 cents. That would be another key zone. And then beyond that, guys, I think we go straight to about 40 cents before a rejection. So it's very, very possible that this plays out. Not guaranteed, obviously. Nothing is set in stone. If we look at, let's check out the Keltner channel, guys, because indicators are kind of nice sometimes. And Keltner channel basically is a volatility index. People call this the God channel. I don't know why. Maybe you can see the future. All right. That was, yeah. I don't know what I'm doing, guys. I've had too much coffee today. All right, cool. Let's clean up the lines a little bit, because it's easier to see the upper boundary is green and the middle boundary as yellow and the lower bound as orange or red. In this case, let's go, why is this like such a weird color? Maybe purple? I like yellow because it's kind of like a traffic light, right? Go, caution, stop. So, all right, cool. This is the KC, guys. KC trades, as you can see, the KC has its own sort of index based on volatility. And what you can gauge from the KC here is that the yellow bound is essentially the midpoint of the Keltner channel. And ideally we have a bounce above it, which we are kind of seeing on this is the 1 day chart, right? If we zoom out and go to the weekly chart, if we look at the KC, be interesting to see what's happening here, okay? All right, guys. Oftentimes, when you have a clean break above the Keltner channel on either upper bound or lower bound, right? Like right here above the upper bound green line, excuse me. That is extremely bullish. As you can see, it causes a really strong movement to the upwards because you're seeing the momentum, the volatility, and the bias to the buy side shift much higher, and potentially even go further ahead. So this is something to note. It's very important to note. And when you have a reversal of that trend, if you have the stock or the asset basically break below the other midpoint of the KC, you can kind of observe the same thing, the same correction, and potentially foresee a rally to the downside and potentially look for support levels, right? And here we had these support levels That's why you had say bounce above here, right, and trade over here, because this was a major support in the past. It's not rocket science, guys. It's just behavior, it's psychology, it's just the history of the trades. So you can look at this stuff and actually make inferences. Now, where we're at on the weekly chart, we've had a couple of good bounces on say, okay? And I know it's a little bit messy. You guys can see the red line here and follow along. That say has stayed pretty much above the red line here, here, right? This is an attempt to break up to the upside, or break out to the upside, sorry, and that was a good rally from 17 cents all the way up to 73 cents, guys. That is a huge, huge rally. So it's very important to note the bottom part of the KC is usually a great place to buy. If you get in around the midpoint, you can still see gains, right? And you see that even from here at 35 cents to 73 cents, guys, that's like a solid almost a 2x, I think, right? Or a little bit more than a 2x maybe. So what do we have right now? What's going on right now with say and the Keltner channel, especially if you look at this TA? We've had this sort of rejection from back here. I'm trying to paint you guys a picture, right? Come down here and essentially bounced off the KC, had a higher low, right, where we're seeing a trend reversal, and now we're over here. So it could be the case where we are potentially in the move for a breakout or due for a breakout, because we're also breaking above the yellow Keltner channel line and we're seeing some buy side momentum and pressure here. That's why I'm leaning more bias towards the upside temporarily with say. Again, I've listed out all the factors in the past, but this is what I would look at and just really watch, because you would see a strong potential rally here. That we're making inferences, we're using logic to sort of determine the potentials of this trade. So that's what I see. I could be wrong, guys. Again, it's always NFA over here, but if you trade this to the upper bound, that's like a 36% move, 30% move, and you could watch for higher highs, right? And maybe we could break out of this sort of zone we've been stuck in for a while. And I would characterize major resistance at 40 cents, guys. You need to watch 40 cents very closely, because that's going to be major resistance for say you possibly get a rejection here, especially if this coin goes all the way up to 40 cents. It's already up 36%, guys. At that point, you got to take profits, or if you're in it for a long haul hold, right? Depends on what you're doing. So that's how I would approach say right now, guys. Potentially watch for these key levels, okay? This can actually go a little bit lower around here. Yep. I would watch for the 30-cent level, right? This usually a psychological number, whole number. You've got 31 maybe on a micro level that I've listed out. It was also wick resistance over here on this week, or the past week. And then I would watch 33.42 and basically 35 cent, right? You can just categorize that as 35 cents. Again, people love whole numbers, guys. It's a thing. It's a weird thing in the market. People like to buy, sell, trade, and do things at whole numbers. It's just a human thing. I don't know why, but it is, right? You would never offer somebody $2.46. If you owe them $2.50 or $2.47, you would just give them the $2.50, right? Just make it easy. Like, you're not gonna be like, yo, dude, can I have my whatever 3 pennies or whatever back, right? That's ridiculous. Hey, unless times are really bad, then I don't know. But yeah, this is my trade setup right now. This is what I'm looking at currently. Guys, you definitely got to check out our referral links in the bio of the YouTube video. Go trade with our partners. We're doing some great things here at Hello Labs, as usual, as you guys know. Go check out our socials. Follow Hello Labs, follow Killer Whales, follow myself.